Tony G here with The Take. So I touched on this a little bit on the last video, and I wanted to touch on it again. The brand split. What we've got here is the brand split. I don't want to call it a complete failure because it's not. It's gotten a lot of people up into a higher position than they ever would have been had there not been a brand split this time around. Guys like AJ Styles were allowed to flourish on SmackDown, even though over on Raw, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar were the focal point for the better part of 2 years. So what went wrong? Well, basically right from the get-go, the WWE did not do enough to differentiate Raw from SmackDown. Sounds like a lot of that is Vince McMahon. It sounds like he is basically shooting down any ideas as far as creative, separating the two shows. And now both creative teams run under one umbrella. They were separate, they're no longer separate. There's a little bit of separation, like, okay, yeah, the red and blue color, obviously, the banner of when they come down, introducing them with their name. SmackDown has that nice little window up on the side, cuts the commercial, you get to still watch the match. There's small differences, but overall, the products feel exactly the same. And now, with the wild card rule, nobody knows who's on which brand anymore. That original brand split, it's going away. It's over, it's done. Now we're left with basically 2 world titles, 2 mid-card titles, 2 tag titles, 2 women's titles, so on and so forth. It's a disaster. It needs to end. With the move to Fox in October, and likely SmackDown moving on Friday, we have an opportunity here. 1 roster, 2 shows. Unfortunately for Monday Night Raw, it's going to be the PG show moving forward. Personally, I think SmackDown should be the PG show because Fox wants a bit more of a sports-oriented product. TV PG, you can have stellar matches with stellar athletes, all the big names competing under the Fox SmackDown brand. It's going to be focused on the wrestling. You can still cut your promos. They're not going to be nearly as raunchy as the stuff shown on Raw. They're not going to be as much swearing, not going to be as much violence. That's okay. 2 separate shows, 1 roster. That way you've got the fans who are craving that Attitude Era excitement. They want that back. There you go. Monday Night Raw. You watch that, you're going to be happy. Over on Fox with SmackDown, the people who enjoy the PG era stuff, i.e. younger kids, that's going to appeal to them. That's going to appeal to their parents. Everybody wins. And you won't have to watch both shows to get everything that's going on because obviously you can have a recap, just like we used to have back in the day. Raw happened, SmackDown, you get a little bit of recap, you get a little bit of continuation, and then next week on Raw, they touch on the big stuff. It worked once, it can work again. There's no reason it can't. So what went wrong originally with the brand split? Well, basically, competition. There's no competition anymore, so they were essentially competing with themselves. And by competing with themselves, I mean, creative got really, really lazy. And eventually the entire thing fell apart because they no longer had all that established talent. Once all that mid-card talent became the top-tier talent, we didn't have an established mid-card anymore. So it was kind of hard to keep 2 big rosters going. So eventually it became 1. How could we have fixed this from the get-go? In my opinion, they had the perfect opportunity to do something unheard of. They actually had in mind to keep SmackDown going, but turn Raw into Nitro. I didn't love the idea at first. I thought Raw was the show that won, right? So Raw needed to stick around. I always preferred the idea of Thunder replacing SmackDown. I still think that. But regardless of however it panned out, we needed to have WWF becoming WWE and WCW. 2 brands, 2 different sets of titles, 2 completely separate rosters. So had this original brand split of WWF and WCW happen in 2002 with 2 different shows, 2 different nights, 2 different rosters, 2 different sets of titles. 17 years later, because now it's 2019, if we still had a WWE and a WCW, completely separate rosters and separate shows that look different, feel different, and are by all means different under one banner, it wouldn't matter that guys like Goldberg and Hogan and The Rock and Austin aren't around anymore. Because after 17 years, if you kept the original brand split idea alive, guys that would have been coming in over the last 15 years would have already established both brands as something separate. And the only way that this even remotely works is if you truly keep these two brands separate. And I mean truly separate. You can still do like a one night only thing every year and have guys facing each other, champions facing each other. That'd be great. Everybody would love that. You know, title versus title, world champ versus world champ, IC versus US, essentially what you're doing now with Survivor Series. But it really truly would have felt separate and it would have felt like a big deal. Hell, basically, it would have been bigger than WrestleMania every year. Had SmackDown become WCW Thunder with the big gold belt in 2002 with like Bill Goldberg and Sting, yeah, that would have been huge. Back in 2002, Goldberg, Sting fighting for the big gold belt on WCW Thunder operating under WWE ban. Meanwhile, on Raw, you still have Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H battling for the WWE World title. Yeah, that could have been happening simultaneously under the WWE banner. But Vince's ego got in the way. He thought it wasn't going to be a fruitful investment. And 17 years later, we've had two brand splits anyway. And the second one is coming to a close yet again. Eventually, it's all going to become nothing more than another failed experiment. It's unfortunate because those mid tier guys that had a chance to shine, that shine goes away. Will they fix it? I don't know. We're going to see where it goes. Basically, a lot of this depends on what's going to happen with the move to Fox. Fox is going to have a lot more creative control than people seem to realize because they're going to direct where this thing goes. They have a vision of what they want to put on TV. Vince is going to bend over backwards to make that happen because Vince McMahon needs that Saudi Arabia money. Vince McMahon has a lot invested in the XFL. Vince is going to listen to Fox because that Fox deal is going to be huge moving forward for the WWE. So what Fox wants, Fox is going to get. They're going to get the big names. So people that don't like the current product, like Lesnar coming in and winning the Money in the Bank at the last second, you're probably not going to enjoy what you see on Fox because they want the big names on there. They want the big ticket names for the big ticket money because those guys, like it or not, bring in ratings. So we'll see how this all pans out. But what do you miss about the brand split coming to an end? What do you think they should have done differently? Let us know in the comments. And of course, if there's any other topics you want to hear discussed, let me know down here. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. This was The Take with Tony G.